interesting talking to the groups and what you were discussing and the difficulties relating and so on. Most of you will recognise if in fact you're the avoidant style, it feels really difficult to raise anything with your partner. It feels like if I take that risk, it's just going to go pear-shaped. Because fundamentally, two lots of inner demons are going to arise. There are different types of inner demons. Let's just go through them and see how they play out in what might otherwise be a good listening environment. If you have self-beliefs and the consequences coming up, you're going to have those triggered in any interaction. So, if we're a standard avoidant and we try to talk to our partners, we're likely to believe that when our partners are saying, I'm bothered by this and bothered by that, they're fundamentally saying, you're not good enough. They're fundamentally criticising us, they're fundamentally shaming us, they're fundamentally saying, there's something wrong with you, and I can tell you the details if you'd like. Right? Fundamentally, that's the way it's going to hear from an avoidance. So then number two, it then dictates your ability to manage your own emotions. Now if you're the anxious type, you're likely to feel predominantly anxious, hurt or angry. And if you're the avoidant type, you're likely to feel shame, defensive or anxious. Put criticism in there, feeling criticised, but that's part of feeling defensive and anxious. So fundamentally we've got this problem. The problem is that we've been in this pattern for a long, long time. So the avoidant is going to not raise things, not raise their needs, not raise the desire to talk about things, because it just isn't worth the trouble. It just isn't worth getting things going. And the anxious person is going to be really nervous if we start a discussion, because they're going to be anxious about being heard, they're going to be anxious that they're going to put their point across, they're going to be anxious that their partner stays engaged long enough to hear really what's going on, they're going to be anxious that their partner's not going to really hear or understand how it is they feel, which is what matters to them. So we have this standoff. And the standoff can only be resolved by a calm approach. So the anxious person has to calm down and stay calm. The avoidant person has to stay engaged despite the risks. Fundamentally, that is our challenge. And it is a big challenge because the avoidant is going to feel inadequate if in fact any I'm not good enough stuff is triggered by their partner, or implication that, but you don't listen to me, or there's no point in raising things with you anyway because you're not interested, or whatever they say, it'll trigger all this stuff of being shamed, defensive and so on. So that means, number three, it'll dictate our ability to determine whatever needs those emotions are alerting us to. So for example, if the avoidant is really nervous, then in fact if I stay talking to you, I'm going to be over-talked, or I'm going to be talked to a different viewpoint, or I'm going to be put down or criticised. What's really hard is for them to say, actually I'm really nervous about talking to you because I'm nervous that if I do, I'm going to be criticised and I'm just going to close down, and I'm going to be really nervous that no matter what I say, I'm going to feel inadequate because I'm not doing what you want me to do.
Can I say something here, which might be helpful? That if you're the anxious and secure, which I am, then if you get overly emotional, it's really important to look at the feeling that's driving the emotionalism. Because in my case it was anxiety, which would then mean that I would become a little bit controlling around what Jeff could or couldn't do. Because, and it wasn't intentional, it was completely unconscious until I became aware of the anxiety, but the anxiety can mean that you can become, or just as I said, controlling, because you don't want to feel insecure and you don't want to feel anxious.
And us avoidants are saying we've got to be confident about what we're saying, otherwise if we're not confident there's an air of uncertainty about what we're talking about.
Yes,
yeah.
And that's because it feels like if I haven't got my words sorted,
I'm going to be trapped.
or I'm going to be overridden, or minimised, or something like that.
Shown to be a fool.
Sorry?
Shown to be a fool.
I didn't hear.
You fear looking foolish if you didn't have your ducks in a row.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the avoidant likes to have everything sorted, and so the avoidant is going to be really nervous that I haven't got my words absolutely, as you say, lined up, then I'm going to be in difficulty. You see, this is why it's really important, and I talked about this last week. When you go into that negotiating phase, it's crucial that there's no pressure, and that the avoidant stays engaged and the anxious stays calm. Because if that's going to happen, if the avoidant stays engaged and the anxious stays calm, you don't have to have everything sweetly sorted. You can put it out higgledy-piggledy. So the avoidant might say, well, I would really like some more time on my own. I don't quite know how that would look. How are you about that? And then the anxious person says, well, I wouldn't be very happy. And so the avoidant says, well, okay, so how could I do this so that you wouldn't be too bothered? In other words, we're still doing nice things together. You do not have to have it sorted. You have to have it slow. Slow.
But if you're the anxious person, you're going to feel a bit anxious because it's not sorted.
Correct.
You're going to be looking at reassurance. You're not going to feel happy about things being up in the air. So you may be driving the conversation to a conclusion, which actually is too quick. You were talking about slowing that down.
And furthermore, the anxious person is really wanting their emotions to be heard.
Yeah.
So if the avoidant does not hear those emotions, they will then get more anxious.
That's right.
So this is why it's really important for the avoidant to say, okay, so are you a bit bothered that in fact I want some time alone? Or are you a bit upset that I'm not prioritising time with you? You've just got to try, the avoidants have to learn to try and tune into where the anxious person's at emotionally, which really is easier if the emotions that the anxious person feels are said, are stated. So if the anxious says, well, I'm a bit nervous about you taking time out, what about us? I'm a bit concerned that if you go off and do that, then there won't be enough time for us.
What about the relationship? What does it say about the relationship? The relationship must be really bad if you need time on yourself.
So the anxious person may feel like time on your own is tantamount to saying, I prefer to be alone than with you.
Exactly. So it feels like a threat.
When in truth, if we're going to get all our needs met, we need both. We need time out, we need time alone, we need time to rest, we need time in the relationship, we need time with the children. There's lots of stuff to juggle. So this is really difficult. So what happens is we just get used to, not just with our current partner, but we have a lifetime of just simply putting things aside. We just don't go there. And that's a disaster because it means that the relationship sooner or later has to get out of balance. You can't go through life only getting this many needs met when there are this many still not getting met. Something's going to give. You're going to get resentful, you're going to get exhausted, you're going to feel like you're just on a treadmill of, say, doing this and not having any good times. We have to learn how to get that balance. Not easy to do that. Difficult, eh, being human? Don't know why we chose it. I'm sure being a rat would be easy anyway. So let's look at a particular scenario. Now I think this, I may have given this last week, the same scenario, but I want to go through it again just to see how it plays out. So he wants to go out with his mates, she wants time together at home, needs clash. So step one, he states his desire to go out and relax, and relaxing is the need being met. She states, we're assuming that there's standard, he's avoidant, she's anxious. So she states a desire for him to be at home and connect. Very standard, very typical sort of scenario. Step two, if the avoidant insecure person, he will reason or justify his position. That's what he's likely to do. I want to go out because my mates are there and I need time out, blah. And if the anxious insecure, she feels disconnected or unimportant. What about us? What does it say about me? Do you want to spend time with me? That's the risk. So what avoidants do is they're not even happy to raise the problem. because that's going to be some, what's the word? Hit back.
Follow.
So anyway, there's going to be a reflex reaction.
A meltdown is what I think.
A meltdown, yes, it's going to be a meltdown. So number 3, so he feels anxious, criticised by her objections, gets defensive, feels controlled, closes down. She feels anxious, upset, probably doesn't say so or why, and eventually gets angry and perhaps accusatory. So what's really happening is all the time we're avoiding step 3. We're doing all sorts of things to avoid step 3. We just don't want to go there. Virtually all couples do this. Not just you, not just the people that see me. I often say to people who do come see me, it's so good you're here so you can work on this. The trouble is I've got 400,000 others to do after you. Rest in peace. So the step 4 is likely he will withdraw resentfully, feeling controlled and trapped, and she feels hurt and upset that she's not a priority, or some variation of that. So then he sits with this resentment, thinking negatively about her. She will then see him withdraw, feel hurt and upset that he's abandoned her, and he controls the relationship by just distancing himself. And then so eventually, if it keeps going, he will explode or walk out on her, and she gets angry at the rejection again and feels unloved and may shout what he hears as criticism. So how do we get past this? This is the human condition. Fundamentally, we are wired to be self-protective. We want to be self-protective first and foremost. But you see, for the anxious style, connection is crucial. You can't just be self-protective because you feel more protective if you're with somebody who, with me, is making sure we're looked after and protected. So for the anxious and secure, being alone really isn't an option. Whereas for avoidance, they can stay there and feel like it's safe. So many of our problems arise from being unable to meet, express, get support for, or possibly even recognise our own needs. And secondly, when needs don't get met, wants may arise instead, or emotions are triggered and generate an argument. So, an example, when instead of taking time out for a balanced life, which is the need, we feel better by working long hours and enjoying a better income, which is really a want. Or, if instead of taking time out to distress, we get irritable and bark orders to someone where emotions get triggered. So, as we've already looked at, needs are often overlooked because we're simply not trained to ask calmly and clearly for these to be met. We may also learn to override or not know something. We've got to get up past that. You can't keep doing that. If you keep doing that, you're into trouble. You're going to keep getting wants met. Wants are usually unconsciously driven. We may seek to have these met even if they are destructive, but they're an alternative to meeting needs. I've used alcohol as an example, but there are lots of others. We just go close down. Yes, we were talking at the break. So, whereas the guy's wants are likely to mean that they want just to do things in their own time, their own rhythm, so that there's no hassles, and they go off and maybe do some loner stuff. The anxious style more often does things like shopping. For example, at the extreme end of the anxious style, shopaholic patterns are very common. The most borderlines, who are at the extreme end of the anxious style, are shopaholics. They have impulses. If you look at the DSM-4, it talks about impulsive behaviour, but one of the most common is spending money. So we meet wants in different ways. So what I'd like you to do is to get into saying, I think what we'll do is rather than go with partners, we'll go back into the same attachment style groups first. We've got to break this in parts. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is something really weird. I'm going to ask the people who are more connect-oriented to come up with a strategy that as a group you can give everyone in the room as to how this connection can be made safe and work well. And I want the avoidance to do the same. So what would the avoidance say to the whole room? Would they say, we need to make sure that you don't get ramped up? We need to make sure that if you're not happy with us, you say it calmly? What strategy do we come up as a group to make sure we break down this impasse so that the avoidants stay connected, the anxious types stay calm, and we learn to put two lots of cards on the table, sit with them for a day or two if need be, and if in fact they have to be put off for a bit, we then come back. We agree to come back. That's the way negotiation starts. And also, you're going to need to do a lot more talking than most people do naturally. You're going to actually have to agree, right, we're off beam, we're not meeting well, how are we going to do this? We've got to talk more. We've got to put more cards on the table, even if there's no resolution. We've got to put the cards on the table. Okay, what I'd like you to do is actually stay with the groups you were in before, because it's simpler. But then I'd like each group to come up with a solution. So we're going to share the solution. With me? Off we go. Let's try that.